Find out what they opt to include.
He found Rakan!
As we go to the casters, enough from you, Vedius.
Thank you very much, Dracos. I am still joined by the man who wears a suit better than a deck of cards. It's Aiden, Zyrene, Moon. We're into picks and bans already. Talia, Rakan, and Cho'Gath taken away by Rampage on the blue side, and Fenerbahçe have removed Jarvan and Kalista from the pool.
I like the bans that have been coming through, except the Rakan. It means if you're going to first pick the Xayah for Yutori, then that's great. If you aren't, then it's probably Tristana. And I don't really, I don't really have too much beef with that. If you're taking Tristana and you think that's better for your AD carry than Xayah, then you don't want Fenerbahçe to go Xayah, Rakan as their 1 and 2 spots.
And we did see Padden go off on that Tristana earlier on. We're 10-1 in his game, I do believe. It's a Draven Hover here for Padden would be a strong laning matchup into the Tristana, but instead it looks like Fenerbahçe are going to lock in their support in the form of a Lulu.
I actually like Lulu as one of those happy mediums where Polymorph is just such an annoying skill, and she's just so good at allowing the lane to be a winning lane for you and get the Ardent Sensor. So I do really like that support pickup here. It depends if they're going for something like a Kog'Maw or if it ends up being more along like a Xayah.
Looks like it's once again going to be Gragas for Crash in the jungle, giving him something that's relatively safe, relatively easy to coordinate with the team. We did see him struggle a couple of times with explosive casts early on in their game against Hong Kong Attitude. Rampage now probably going to go towards their support and their jungler for these next 2 picks.
Yeah, the jungler gets locked in. It's the Rek'Sai here with the Sejuani Jarvan banned away and the Gragas taken early on. So the Rek'Sai, not that great in the late game. We'll see if Tussle has a good effect in the early game, because Crash already played this matchup earlier today, and he was able to get the better of the Rek'Sai.
Eventually. It was a very long, drawn-out process against Godquai and the Hong Kong Attitude squad.
I feel like when the Rek'Sai doesn't get to do much early game, and then it hits mid game, and she doesn't even have the flash multi-person knock-up anymore. She'll knock up the closest person to her center, and then everybody else gets pushed away. So I just feel like Rek'Sai, post 25 minutes, if it's not full AD and it hasn't been putting in work, it's a pretty bad champion to have on the roster compared to other junglers you could have, like the Gragas.
And it feels like 1907 Fenerbahçe are going completely against this idea that Crash is purely an early game jungler, because he's got the Gragas. They're playing a late game bottom lane in the form of Lulu and Kog'Maw as well, something that scales up really well, and not really going for these early priority picks that perhaps we expected them to.
Yeah, the Lulu was interesting. Didn't think that was too much contested. I do like the Gragas, because Gragas is considered the #1 counter to Kog'Maw, where you can put him in a different place and separate his supports from him, and Kog'Maws will usually play a little bit further forward. So I do like those pickups for 1907 Fenerbahçe right off the bat. The Galio ban, so they don't have more support here for that Kog'Maw. And Thaldrin had a good Galio game where he was able to separate the map. I feel like if you're banning the Galio, you're probably banning Shen as well.
It definitely make a lot of sense. You want less protection on that AD carry. Fenerbahçe putting a lot of eggs in the Padden basket, whereas Rampage have a more rounded team composition for the time being. Really want to see Evie in that top lane, given something he can split push on, given something he can pressure on, because that is where he thrives as a player.
Yeah, he is very popular in that Camille. 3 games on it in his summer season with a pretty good win rate, 2 and 3. There's the Shen ban, making sure they don't have that protection for the Kog'Maw, which once the Lulu was locked in, you can kind of see coming.
Maokai does give you a lot of protection as well, a lot of zone control with that ultimate. Get the kittens out and make them chase down your opposition. Rampage looking towards mid and top for their final 2 picks. I'm going to see any interesting decisions out from them here.
It really depends. You can go for something more aggressive like the Gnar and try to win that lane in the top side, especially with all these tanks banned away. I feel like that's what they're looking for here. And when you have that Corki, Fenerbahçe can go for Syndra, LeBlanc. There's a lot that's left up here. If they wanted to really hard counter it too, you go Kassadin, but then your wave clear is awful. We'll see what Rampage pick in the top lane, because it's been so far the most important one.
Looks like it might be the Gnar that you predicted. Gives Evie a lane that he can win as well, which is so vital for Rampage. A lot of their wins do come off the fact that Evie is strong in those 1v1 matchups on the top side of the Rift.
Yeah, now I want to see wave clear from 1907 Fenerbahçe. The Syndra is what I would think would come through. Beats the Corki early, loses a little bit later when Trinity Force Hex Shrinker are in. And there we go.
You're on form, Zyrene. Great predictions throughout the end of that draft. Any predictions for me on how these compositions are going to match up against each other?
Fenerbahçe have a winning mid early, losing top, losing bot. Except for the Lulu, will be able to actually provide pressure. So this is one that flips later, but I do feel like the Kog'Maw and the Lulu should be able to push in the Tristana and the Alistar. But Rampage have the more aggressive jungler, so watch for what Tussle does early against Crash, and then Rampage just have superior split push come late game.
Tussle hasn't always been an early game jungler as well. Very low proximity early on with his team, not great at utilizing these early junglers, but is good at being involved in kills when they do happen for the Rampage lineup. Rampage, of course, coming off a loss earlier on. Really want to step up their game. They were almost perfect game by Hong Kong Attitude. Only a fountain dive at the end, actually giving a kill across towards the Rampage lineup. And they haven't really tasted defeat at all this season. They only lost to Detonation's Focus Me in the LJL.
That's true. It's always been the LJL back and forth at the top. Detonation, Focus Me, Rampage. Every single finals keeps coming down to those two teams, the ones that have imported, that have worked on their rosters. But remember, for Rampage, they were the representatives for the LJL for Japan at MSI. They fell short, and they already started off on the wrong foot here at the 2017 World Championship. They need to pick themselves up, take down Fenerbahçe, and then you have Group D with 1-1 for every team coming into day 2.
Three-way tiebreakers. I love a good draw. I am from EU after all. 1-on-1 scores are exactly my cup of tea. Seeped for about 5 minutes or so if you want to get that perfect brew on. And what Rampage are looking to do is come back from that almost perfect game earlier on. We have seen teams come back from poor performances in game 1. Young Generation, a prime example of it. Rampage will be trying to match their opponents from across the pond.
Yeah, I feel like the Vedius curse might have gotten to them. No.
It's awful. It is dire.
Fnatic suffered. Rampage has suffered. Who is next?
There's something about that man that screams Welsh Wizard to me. You know, he's thin, he probably lives off moss.
He has that
makes
lean.
all of these predictions. He's got dragon fire in his eyes.
God, he's
Daenerys Targaryen, eat your heart out.
I was about to say, he's like Caius Ligarius from Julius Caesar. He's got that lean, hungry look to him.
True, you are true. Rampage have a very hungry look to them, as well as they are hungry for their first victory in Wuhan and of Worlds 2017. 1907 Fenerbahçe trying to secure their spot at the top of that group. A surprise to some, an expectation for many others. Lots of analysts were coming into this tournament saying Fenerbahçe are the wildcard team to watch.
Yes, especially from being from the Turkish region up against a team like Supermassive, and then having somebody like Faldrin that people are very familiar with, and then bringing in imports like Frozen and Move. Overall, Fenerbahçe were in a region that historically has a good reputation in international tournaments, getting in through the play-in parts, but now in the emerging regions, they seem to be one of those ones that are near the top. But remember, it was the 3rd seed from the LMS, the Hong Kong Attitude, and it wasn't something that was a completely convincing game. I think the biggest takeaways from that are that Fenerbahçe ward pretty well. Still like to see more, but they ward pretty well, and that they also know what to do with their compositions and what to do against the enemy. So I want to see them handle the split push, and I want to see what they do with this Kog'Maw and the Lulu come late game.
Something they do extremely well as well is when they have a gold lead, they hold on to it. They never give up. You're very unlikely to come back from behind against Fenerbahçe.
Well, remember, they were up against Hong Kong Attitude, and Hong Kong Attitude was in the lead about 1,000, 2,000 gold the whole time. And then at the very end, when Fenerbahçe got a slight gold lead, they ran away with it and won the game.
They did. Incredibly good at snowballing, and incredibly good at relying on their top laner as well. Thordrin, a stalwart for this team, a veteran, and their captain as well. Has been around the block a few times in international competition. See how he is able to match up into Evie, especially since you've got a jungler who... Crash is a very reliable jungler and a very good jungler, but you wonder how much synergy he's had time to develop with this Fenerbahçe lineup, because when you're in a losing matchup in the bottom lane and in the top lane, your jungler really needs to be there to help relieve the pressure, help push out the lane. We'll have to see how Crash is able to do that in this early game.
He's actually done the exact same route that he did in the first game, where he went through his jungle, went to the enemy jungle, was like, they didn't do Gromp, and then wards it up, and then looks towards that top side.
Ward is placed. at the right timing by Ebby. So Rampage, aware of Crash's jungle pathing, he's going to go to Krugs now, get himself a juicy 10 CS, as much as rock people can be juicy, of course. It's like getting blood from a stone. Taking Krugs takes you an age on those junglers. Where's your main point of focus in this early games, Irene? As an analyst, as someone who likes to break down the game, where are you looking and saying, this is what I want to see, this is what I'm interested in?
I'm always watching junglers. As a jungler myself, I'm always watching junglers, especially the one that has the more aggressive champion, like Tussle. It's really just on this guy, what can he do? Is he able to walk around wards and be informed by his team? Because right now, Crash backs, gets himself Hunter's Potion, and also gets himself the upgrade for the trackers, and that's really just what he has to do. If you can protect this Kog'Maw Lulu and also keep your top lane safe, then I feel like you've done your job as the jungler that's in the less aggressive matchup.
And as I was doing research on Tussle before, I actually found it very interesting to look at his early jungle stats and how he prioritizes his jungling and his laning, because actually he doesn't tend to spend that much time around his team. 34.2% of the early game is spent in proximity with his teammates. It's a very low number. And he doesn't get that many kills early on as well.
Yeah.
Kills and assists at 15 minutes is 1.31. That's the lowest of any play-in jungler. However, this time he's adapted. Frozen knocks him back, Crash around the corner. Tussle is going to get knocked up with the body slam and has to flash away to keep himself safe.
I don't feel like he had to flash there with Frozen having no mana, but he just does it to be completely safe, and that's actually way more pressure for Crash, who can keep going in and invading and placing wards now without much fear.
And once again, it's Crash coming mid. It's what we saw in game 1. 2 early ganks mid before that 6-minute mark. Here, 1 relatively early one, and again, just coming back round, is against the Corki as well. Wasn't able to be too effective in game 1, but did give Frozen a little bit of a CS advantage here.
Remember, it is a Corki now. Instead of with the cleanse, it's with the teleport. And Patton walks up. He's going to get jumped on. This will be a reset on the rocket jump too, I believe.
That's the reset.
It is.
He's going to jump in again. Patton tries to jump away, gets the help pick shield. And that's Summoner's Burnt for Fenerbahçe in the bottom lane.
And that was Patton going too far forward. That's 3 summoner spells, a chunked out health bar for a single summoner spell on the side of Rampage. That is a huge win for the Tristana Alistar after going all in.
Patton going too far forward? I'm pretty sure I've heard of that story before.
Oh man, I like to get that one out of my head real quick and just reset, but he is a large part of this late game here with the Kog'Maw. They just need to keep him afloat. And that's probably where Crash is going to have to be pulled to, because this summoner spell advantage, you could flash, pulverize, and then headbutt this Kog'Maw into your team. You have to kind of hover around this area.
And those summoners are going to be down for so long. I mean, Ramune can get the package. You can see Tussle come down here, 4-man dive on a Kog'Maw and a Lulu before they hit level 6 is very effective. Crash has caught out Tussle, though. He's going to try and jump away. And once again, Crash not quite in the exact right spot with that explosive cast.
Yeah, that actually probably would have been a kill because the Cinder was coming down from the mid lane, and there's no flash on the Rex side from before, remember? And that's why Crash feels confident to walk into the jungle and ward this up.
Even game in terms of gold, but we're seeing advantages for both teams in different areas. Bot lane seems to go in favor of Rampage. Yuturu, Mayasi, and Dara doing a great job down there. Mid lane is in favor of Frozen and the jungle as well for Crash. So Fenerbahçe playing around that mid-jungle synergy, the 2 Koreans on their team.
Thaldren just ultied towards Ramune. This is a trident attack. They're coming from 3 different angles. That's a long route.
The route lands. Here comes Frozen as well. The flash away, but the route is going to hit once again, and that's just first blood for Fenerbahçe in the mid lane.
Yeah, that is a fantastic trident attack with Thaldren, Frozen, and Crash all showing up to kind of give Frozen a large advantage here because the TP was already used by Ramune.
Evi's used TP now as well, so that's another teleport that is going to be down. Thaldren will have his up sooner than Evi, so that gives them more advantage later on, and they can look for more of these plays. Fenerbahçe typically playing around Frozen once again.
Yeah, and remember, the Maokai ultimate was changed for the longer it travels, the higher the duration is, up to 2.4 seconds of a route. And so it went a very long distance and was able to just keep him in place. He blows his flash afterwards, but still, the W from Thaldren had already connected as he is caught up.
And one of the key points we've been making so often throughout these play-ins is your veterans have to stand up when you're in play-ins. Thaldren comes down, probably calls for the gank, says, I'm coming mid, let's kill this guy at level 6.
And that's something that we didn't see from him earlier, because remember, he was in a matchup, Galio versus Maokai, where he got pushed under his turret. His turret was half HP. It's like, why isn't this Galio shoving out the Maokai, or at least clearing and kind of handshaking on waves, and then going to look for like an ulti mid or something, or some type of engage, or trying to blow flashes in other lanes. So Thaldrn much more active this game on this Maokai.
A 20 CS advantage though for Rampage in that bottom lane. Yutori Mayashi and Dara doing a great job down here as they continue to force back Padden. Not quite got his flash up. It's about a third of the cooldown remaining on that, but there is an exhaust for Japon, so if they do get aggressed upon, they should be able to keep themselves safe, especially with that level 6 wild growth from the Lulu.
Since this bottom lane doesn't win for Fenerbahçe, and it wins with the aggression now because the summoner spell is being down for Padden, getting control of this Infernal Drake for 1907 really relies on Frozen in the mid lane, and that's kind of where you want to play as the junglers. More towards that mid lane here, since your mid laner's winning, since he has a CS advantage, you've got the jungler's other flash early on. You can start going for things like this, where you can start setting up roams and trying to get something like that Infernal Drake and freeing up your bottom side.
Are you saying that Crash should gank mid lane on 1907 Fenerbahçe?
I'm saying he probably shouldn't go bottom, and instead he should go mid, because then him and Frozen can team up and free up bottom, because I don't think this bottom lane is in a fantastic position right now. And Thaldrn, again, ulti's back up.
I've seen this story before, but Crash is not in the right position to be able to capitalize on it if they do go any deeper. Frozen not with his blue buff. Ramune has his own. And now this is what you want to see a bit more from Evie as well. If Thaldrn's going to continually roam away, you need to aggress on him as he comes back. You need to chunk him down.
Yeah, still just getting denied some minions is mostly what happens here. Thaldrn not to get back, and now Crash is going to help them get it back. So in this matchup, this is just the jungler running through the lane and just being like, all right, I let you get it back, timer, because otherwise it would have been favorable for Rampage, because they have so much gold to spend. This is the only lane that hasn't been able to back and spend their gold yet.
Look at that, 3,000 gold on Yutori Mayashi, 2,500 on Padden. That's a pretty impressive amount of gold to be able to spend on your first back. Zerka's pickaxe and double dagger, just to add as much attack speed as possible. It's almost an ardent sensor for Japon, not quite able to get the combination cost of that item.
Yep, nothing just yet, whereas Yutori Mayashi, we'll see what happens here with his back.
Is there an argument just to rush and like an IE here?
I don't think he has enough gold. He'll be able to get like the boots and like the pickaxe and the BF sword. And I guess that's just it. Doesn't have too much more on top of that. So he could have had
ward.
Actually, he may have been able to afford it.
I can't do maths that quickly at this time of night. Evie's going to jump away from Thaldrn up towards this top side. Thaldrn chucks a little bit of Fenerbahçe spirit out there as Evie answers with some Rampage of his own. Infernal Drake does go to Fenerbahçe, though, as they got control of the bottom lane due to the back timer of Yutori Mayashi. And now 1907 to have that early lead. Infernal Drake, a kill, about 300 gold ahead.
Yeah, and I was just looking at it. Yeah, he was like 10 gold away from being able to full buy an Infinity Edge, but wanted the boots too instead. That's totally fine. It's just a preference there, because he doesn't want to get chased down. Because if you don't have boots, and then you're up against a Kog'Maw that has boots and a Lulu, if you misstep, you could probably just get run down by these guys. So you don't want that to happen. You don't want this lane to kind of rubber band back on you. And so he doesn't go for the Infinity Edge, which would have left him with no boots, not even the first one.
Haven't really seen Tussle utilize this Rek'Sai early on. It has been positioning towards mid at times, and we're actually seeing Dara get a flank off onto Crash. Tussle's on his way as well. We'll look for the engage. There's the knock-up, double knock, back towards Crash, but Crash just
Tussle ulti!
away. Tussle ulti's underneath the turret. The explosive cast, the kill as well with the unleashed power. Fenerbahçe get their second kill on the board.
Got pulled in by Crash there, who blew the flash and pulled him all the way under. It was a full HP Tussle, but then he just gets body slammed. Believe he ended up having the interrupt there on his tunnels. It looked like he was trying to get away.
Great play by Crash and good combination with Frozen as well, who was there to pick up the kill, has the Sorcerer's Boots and is looking towards that Morello Nomicon. Let's have another look at this, because I believe the tunnel comes underneath.
Yeah, it was early on that he used the tunnel. And then when he comes out, it's just the body slam after. So that's what it was. It was the body slam with the, the explosive cask, and then it was the scatter the weak, which made it look like he went back and then forward.
Like a ping pong ball in the mid lane.
But like I said with the Rek'Sai, this is a champion that you gotta have some type of tempo. If you start losing that, it's like, all right, this champion does not feel good to be playing right now, especially into things like the Gragas and trying to reach this Syndra it's going to be really difficult since he wasn't able to exploit the early part of the game.
Evie trading onto Thordran in the mid lane. When you go into Meganar, you get ability to trade relatively effectively, but Thordran will just continue to harass back. Sap Magic passive, of course, on the Maokai gives you a lot of health back in this matchup as well. Meanwhile, in the bot lane, we still see that turret being pressured. There could be first tower blood down towards this bottom side. We said top and bot lanes are going to lose for Fenerbahçe. Rampage will be able to get the advantage. And meanwhile, in the mid lane, that's where we've seen 1907 Fenerbahçe put their pressure.
Yeah, but there's also a package now for Ramune, so he's looking to roam, looking to maybe get this bottom turret. And you have to have people show up and be in attendance here. So Crash will hang around this area, and you can see Ramune cares more about his positioning here and the killing out those wards.
They just use the package to get back into the lane to clear it out. I was expecting a roll call in the bottom lane. School was in session. Had to mark off the attendance, but Ramune was decided he wanted to bunk off school today, taking a little bit of a break, maybe going camping with your father.
Nope.
The Nard knocks back. It's just like, nope, not gonna happen today.
I don't know if this is set up for another joke.
Nope. Just referencing back. You've got to elude sometimes.
Please stop.
And elude Evie as Thordran is kept in the lane. Evie's almost up towards that back cleaver.
Bottom side, 2 people roaming down. This could be a tower dive. You do have the Gragas with the body slam and the ultimate.
Immediately, Yuturi, Mayashi, and Dara back away, but we're starting to see that pressure from Padden that does happen on the Cogmore. You pop that Bio Arcane Barrage, and you can put a lot of damage down very quickly, especially with the Lulu buffing you up.
Yeah. He just walks forward with that extra movement speed, and then it really would become Dara. In order to stop that, he'd have to go in, headbutt, pulverize, and then at that point, you're putting yourself more at risk for that gank. So you just book it out of there, back, lose some CS to the turret, and Thaldrin.
Gonna Sap Magic, try and get some health back. Pops down the Nature's Grasp as well, but it's a good dive from Rampage as Tussle gets his first assist on the board, and Rampage get their first kill of the game.
And Crash is just looking to get to that turret so it doesn't drop. But there's enough of a forcing unit here. May have to pull Frozen up to the top side too. But Dara is just holding mid.
If you're support in that situation, you are so happy. Because you know you're going to get all of those CS. Oh no, you're not, because they got into tower. Oh, you saw 200 gold just disappear before your eyes.
Does that make
very sad cow. He's morose now.
Oh my god. You're worse than Freak.
Just
That's not a compliment, by
excitement.
the way.
Well, yeah, worse usually isn't. Just the excitement of Worlds. It's getting to me, Zoe.
I gotcha.
1,000 gold lead for Fenerbahçe as they continue to get this mid lane pressure. And they've got Ardent Sensor on the Lulu now as well, so Padden is going to be in a strong position. Only 20 CS down at the 17-minute mark after losing out that lane pretty early on.
And now they're going to swap it. Because this turret on top side is really low and also the one on bottom, you got to find something that may crack a turret faster, and you may be able to get an advantage. No, actually, they're just going to swap it again, so it looked like some hesitation there. Maybe they thought that because Evie was pushing, I don't know. Because they saw Tristana and Alistar killing those Krugs with the ward that was placed earlier. So I guess they just answer here, and it might have been a call from Crash that, hey, I'll help you guys out, because he's on this side of the map.
Down towards that bottom side is spotted out by a ward, but he will clear that. Rift Herald has been started by Tussle and Evie. There's a Dragon up, it's only a Cloud. Infernal, of course, picked up earlier by Fenerbahçe. 300 gold between the two teams, very even early on. The scaling advantage seems to be in favor of Fenerbahçe with the Cogmore and the Lulu combo.
Yeah, you always have to worry a little bit, though, about what happens with this Gnar in terms of split push and pressure. And then the Tristana, can you reach him? Because this may be a point where you really had to rely on Padden for a lot of that damage. But the front line, like you were saying, it's pretty good for Fenerbahçe. I would definitely say it's easier to execute in the late game for Fenerbahçe.
And sometimes that's what these games come down to, is which team can pull off their composition easier. Like, is it just a composition where you run at the enemy? Yes, that can work.
Yep. Now we're looking for a turret race. Tussle on top with Evie. They've already dove this guy once. They're trying to get that turret. And meanwhile, bottom, they're just trying to get that damage on it as well.
So Thordran flashed away there. Turret will go down in the top side first, so Rampage gets a little bit extra gold out of that. Still slightly behind, just CS advantages being picked up for Fenerbahçe. Just some extra gold from somewhere.
Yeah, more tempo, though, and with more members here on the bottom side. And now they have Syndra coming down, too. This will be a 4-on-2.
There's so much damage coming out from Padden. 2.2 attack speed at
Frozen.
18 minutes. Frozen's going to get onto Yuto Mayashi, but doesn't have the damage.
Stun.
The knockback, the heal. He does get the kill. That's the reason he is the person to watch in this team. Frozen comes up big, gets them a tower in the bottom lane, and they're going to keep pushing.
They're going to keep going, exactly. They're going to look for this turret, potentially an inhibitor on top of it, because Rek'Sai's in mid, not going to be able to push that turret. He's thinking about it. He wasn't back in there. He's throwing down Rift Herald. That's what it is. He's trying to get that turret back. And nope, they're going to back off after that, because they need to go answer.
I'm having flashbacks to the last game. 20 minutes, almost an inhibitor falling. Join us in 32 minutes as this game will conclude. Tussle is able to get the mid lane tower. Rampage trying to get something back, and that's what you see good teams do. If they know they're losing out on one side of the map, they try and get any advantage they can on the other. But Fenerbahçe, with a great push in bot, secure themselves 3 turrets.
Once again, came down to mid lane priority. Frozen had mid lane priority, came down to the bottom side, and then he was able to make that play happen and get those 2 kills. Whereas Thaldrin here,
No
pushed in
flat
mid.
for him. Tussle's on the chase, but he does manage to
heal.
heal away the sap magic, but there's the Narm into the wall. Evie gets a kill for himself. It's 2 for Rampage overall, but Evie is just getting absolutely shredded by Padden. The engage from Crass. Rampage have to flash away. And Fenerbahçe are in the driver's seat in this game.
And now they have a little bit more pressure on this mid lane. Padden has been able to pick up a good amount of CS. He's only 10 down now. And with people are backing here, this might be another turret for Fenerbahçe.
4 towers at the 20-minute mark. This is much quicker from them. Liking the acceleration they have. We said it earlier on, when they get ahead, they don't let go. And that's exactly what we're seeing from 1907 Fenerbahçe.
Yeah, they just play around mid a little bit better there with Frozen and the early ganks that went his way. And the fact they were able to shut down Ramune allows him to play towards the bottom side and get this dive. You can see here, Crash, really aggressive. That was a great ulti there from Japone to knock up Dara as he was headbutting in. And then Frozen, really since the rocket jump was down, just gets a disgusting combo.
Really well played by Frozen as well. That's the reason that he was a mid laner for Longzhu. It's the reason that they wanted to set up a team around him. Thaldrin does get caught out a little bit here, perhaps just pushed up a bit too far.
But he lives long enough to pull them in, and then that's what ends up allowing Padden to get this kill back onto Evie, because Evie blows the flash forward after leaping previously, and now you get just run down.
Padden with the Ginsu's now has a Runans on top of it. 21 minutes in, you've got an Ardent Sensor, Runans, Ginsu's Kog'Maw.
Yeah.
That is pretty darn disgusting to face up against.
Yeah, and we're talking about things that are disgusting to face up against. Frozen has gone from Morel Nomicon, Sork Shoes, Void Staff. This is typically like a third purchase. You'll usually see like a Leandri's or something, but he's just saying, I want to be able to obliterate people. There's a little bit of MR that's been purchased with the boots and the Hex Drinker. We're just going to try to get in there and blow these guys up. So look at Frozen to try and snowball now that he's acquired this lead.
Crash getting forced back by Tussle. Padden gets a little bit of chunk down onto the tower, but not going to be able to finish it yet. Yutori Mayashi on the other side does have an Infinity Edge. His Frozen. Tussle goes down to half. Dava, another great wild growth. Japone is showing us exactly how to beat an Alistar on this Lulu. They do lose 1 though, and now we're going to see Rampage continue the chase. Voidooz comes out, slows them up. And Rampage will not be able to get anything more out of this.
Well, Rampage, no, there's no teleport on the Maokai from before, and this is a 3v5 for a bit until he runs up here. Starting up the Baron, that's questionable. Oh, wait, Frozen took a blast cone.
Frozen got caught out. Ramune gets the kill, and now Rampage are right back in this game. 1,000 gold between the 2 teams, and this is where you start up the Baron. Padden and Japone still alive. Exhaust up on the support. Heal, flash on the Kog'Maw as well.
And Evie's about to transform. This is exactly where you want to be with the Mega Gnar. I feel like if you can see this, whoa, he smited for HP. They're not actually doing it. They just want to fight.
Can't quite get the wallop. Here's the Nature's Grasp as well from Thaldrin.
The root!
Padden with a huge amount of deep, but there's the knockup. Padden still going through. It's a double, it's a triple. He's going to get the quadra as well as the Alistar falls. He's having beef for dinner tonight.
They're going to give him the
is there, trying to jump across the wall. Thaldrin with the chase. Padden can't quite get it. The knockdown onto Ramune. There's the root. There's the Penta. Kog'Maw for Fenerbahçe.
If you're going to remember anything about Padden, erase the brain. Put this in there. That pentakill, 3v5 in the Baron Pit. Thaldrin with the glorious Nature's Grasp. That is what you want to see from a team captain.
Superb play by Fenerbahçe. Japone as well, so instrumental on that Lulu pick. And this is why people tout them as the best in Group D. This is why they're looking to go 2-0 today.
And they just have such a lead now after that. That was Frozen dropping the ball, getting caught after the blast cone. And even before that, the catch on Crash. So this was able to remedy all of that and put it back in Fenerbahçe's favor when there were some misplays there. But this was disgusting. This was Frozen. Yeah, the blast cone, that's a mistake. They're able to pick him up. Crash is already dead. 3v5, you start this up, but Thaldrin had already started walking up. His teleport, I believe, was not up at this point. It does appear at the bottom, but I don't believe it was. So he walks up, but his placement here of the ultimate, and the fact he keeps his distance, he casts it now, and it starts going. And then everybody says, all right, time to go up, but the range on it, as they turn the corner, as they're almost there at padded, he's kiting back perfectly, and when the headbutt pulverize from Dara comes in, the slam from Thaldrin stops it, and that ends up being a fantastic pentakill here from Padden. They give him Padden the stats.
They japoned the enemy team there. They took that penta at the end. And personally, I doubted Padden and Japone. They're now pushing forward this inhibitor in the mid lane. Look at the damage in that last fight. 6,500 on a Kog'Maw. That is dirty, dirty stuff from Fenerbahçe as they look to close out this game. A 9,000 gold lead, 25 minutes in. This is more dominant than we saw Fnatic. This is more dominant than we saw Team WE. This is Fenerbahçe.
Something that we missed during the replay is Frozen was able to destroy Evi, and that's what allowed them to push up that mid lane without much contest.
Just incredible stuff all around. Rampage wondering where their lead went, wondering where their early game went, wondering where their Tristana went. She's facing up against a 7-0-0 Kog'Maw.
Yeah, a full item up, by the way. Now he has the most gold in the game, and he has 3,000 gold more than anybody on the side of Rampage.
I love this build as well. I really like getting the Frozen Mallet when you're this far ahead, because you get that extra tankiness. If someone gets onto you, you just shred through them and they're not going to kill you quickly.
Exactly. How do you lose this game? Padden dies. How do you stop that? Frozen Mallet. So I like it here. Some people go for the wit's end, but he just wanted this to kite back. And now it's going to be even harder to shut him down, and that's how you make that snowball happen even further. He's caught. Let's see what happens.
There's the wild growth, but Evi gets shredded down. That's a legendary Kog'Maw, and now Padden's just opening up the big guns. He's going to get onto Tussle as well. It's a double, looking for his second penta of the game.
Oh my God.
But Ramune and Yutoi Mayashi are not going to give it up.
Right in the fountain. Get in the fountain, boys.
Rampage once again on the end of a devastating loss. They lost earlier on, and now it looks like Fenerbahçe are going to take them down. Only 26 minutes in, the Nexus towers are falling.
You can see they're just trying to take care of business here. Make it fast, Padden. Walk it forward, but that's going to be the next. That is so quick.
What an impressive performance from Fenerbahçe, and what an impressive performance from their bottom lane as well. Padden trying to get on towards the founding, but that is the Nexus, and that's Fenerbahçe going 2-0 up.
And ending the first day at 2-0 at the top of Group D. This group was up in the air. We had some people saying Rampage, some people saying HKA, and others, whispers, 1907 Fenerbahçe are now shouts.